Young Thug reportedly offered Kodak Black an open check deal to join YSL Records, but instead of accepting, Kodak fired back with a demand nobody expected. He didn't just want a fortune. He also said he wanted one more thing: Young Thug's baby mama. The whole thing is causing a lot of drama. Here's how it unfolded. The $100 million number. June 2026 was when Kodak Black closed the book on his major label years. On June 12, he dropped Kodak The Blessing, a 26-track project that runs about 76 minutes, put out through Vulture Love and Capitol Records. He had shared the track list and the cover 2 days before, on June 9. The project is stacked with various features and carries songs like Blessing, Move, Thunder Baby, Better or Worse, and American Dream. The project landed on the Billboard 200 at number 176, and Kodak made sure everyone knew what it meant. He said it was his last one under a major 9 studio albums deep, or a 26-track tape depending on how you count it, and he was closing the chapter on the label system for good. A few days after the release, Kodak went on a live stream and made it plain. He said he completed his deal with Atlantic Records, completed his deal with Capitol, and was going to stay independent. No new label, no new boss, just him and his catalog. That is a big deal for any rapper. 2 major deals, both finished, and instead of chasing the next one, he chose himself. For an artist who came up owing labels his time and his masters, this was the move he had been building toward for years. That news moved fast, rap pages picked it up, and just like that he became the most talked about name on the market, and that is when Young Thug entered the chat. On June 21, Young Thug reposted the news on X and made his move in public. He wrote that if Kodak would do a deal with him, he would give him whatever he thinks he want. No price, no terms, no album count. He left the whole thing open. The rap world read it one way. This was a blank check, name your price. Thug was telling Kodak to fill in the number himself and come sign with YSL. It was a shout out and an offer at the same time. One big name trying to pull another big name onto his team. At that point, YSL was active again. Thug had even been talking about a new YSL compilation album around that same time. So the pitch was not empty. He had a real label with a real lineup and a real plan, and he wanted Kodak's name at the top of it. Kodak did not sit on it. The same day, he went to his Instagram story and shut the door. 2 words, no thanks twin. That was the reply. Short, calm, and final. He had just told the world he was independent. The internet ran with it. A lot of fans said Kodak was betting on himself. He had already been through 2 major labels. He was eating good on his own terms now, and he owned his own moment. Why would he give that up? Others said the offer, as nice as it looked, came off a little bit off. Kodak was a headliner with his own stature. Some people even called the offer low-key disrespectful, like Thug was pitching a man who did not need pitching. And plenty of people just called it a smart play. Stay free, keep your masters, keep your money. Full control was the whole point, and Kodak had just fought for it. For a couple of weeks, that was the story. Offer made, offer declined, clean and done. Then July 10 happened, and the story got a second life. New clips of Kodak went viral across Instagram, Facebook, and X. In them, Kodak circled back to the idea of a deal, but this time he was playing with it. He was not saying a flat no anymore. He was setting a price so high it turned into a joke. According to the reports that spread that day, Kodak said that if Thug really meant whatever you want, then here's what he wants. He wants $100 million, and he wants a full album with Mariah the Scientist, who is Young Thug's partner and the mother of his kids. Read that again. Kodak did not just ask for major label money. He asked for a joint album with Thug's woman as part of the deal. That is the line that turned a normal signing rumor into a full-blown moment. Kodak was not in a boardroom. He was on a live, having fun, flexing that he was free, and that his name carried weight. He was not saying no anymore. He was saying sure, but it will cost you everything. Media pages framed it the same way. This was banter. The reactions matched the energy. People laughed at the $100 million number, because even the biggest artists do not usually see deals that size up front. Major label advances, even for stars, tend to land in the single-digit to low double-digit millions. So a 9-figure ask was never a real number. It was a punchline. It was Kodak saying the price of his freedom is a number you cannot afford. Some fans said they would actually love to hear Kodak and Thug on a track, deal or no deal. Some said they would love to hear Kodak and Mariah, which only made the joke louder. Others just backed Kodak for staying independent and keeping control of his catalog. And a lot of people tied the whole thing back to an old piece of drama between Kodak and Mariah, because this was not the first time those 2 names got mentioned in the same breath. There was also a smaller detail floating in some of the clips where Kodak seemed to joke that Thug could sign one of Kodak's own artists instead, before piling on the big demands. Whether that was serious or just more banter, nobody could really tell. That was the beauty of it. Young Thug hasn't answered the demands. Mariah hasn't either. Thug kept promoting his own YSL business on the side, moving like a man who made his offer and was fine either way. But that Mariah demand is not random. It is the whole reason this story hits different. A regular counteroffer would have been a bigger number and a better cut. Kodak went past the money and reached for something personal to see why. You have to go back and look at what Kodak and Young Thug actually are to each other, and what happened between Kodak and Mariah a year before any of this. The history with Mariah. Here's the thing most people get wrong. Kodak Black and Young Thug are not best friends. Their bond is real, but it is the kind of bond that lives in the same world without living in the same house. Two Southern kings on the same map, crossing paths at the big moments, respecting each other from a distance. That distance is exactly what makes the $100 million joke land so hard. Start with the music, because they do have a real record together. Back in 2022, Kodak dropped Top Off Benz, a flex track featuring Young Thug. It is a shiny, big money song, an ode to the Mercedes with the top down. Two of them trading bars about cars, women, and the street life in their own styles. And here's the wild part, that song is pretty much the only major thing they ever made together. One collab, that is the whole studio history. So when Kodak now asks for a full album with Thug's Girl, remember, he never even did a full project with Thug himself. The second piece of their bond is bigger than any song. It is loyalty in the courtroom. In 2024, during Young Thug's long YSL RICO case, Thug's lawyer Brian Steele got hit with contempt of court and got sentenced to weekend jail time. Steele had refused to say where he learned about a private meeting between the judge, the prosecutors, and a witness. It was a shocking moment, a defense lawyer being punished for protecting his source, and who stepped up in public to defend him. Kodak's own longtime attorney, Bradford Cohen. Cohen went online and went to bat for Steele, calling the case off the reservation, calling it an instant mistrial, and calling Steele a real one. This is the same Bradford Cohen who had defended Kodak in his own Florida drug case back in 2022. So when Cohen spoke up for Thug's lawyer, the whole scene read it as a quiet handshake between the two camps. Now we get to the reason the Mariah demand is not a random flex. Rewind to September 2025. Young Thug was locked up on those RICO charges, and while he was inside, leaked jail calls started to spread. In one of them, Mariah the scientist told Thug that Kodak Black had slid into her DMs while Thug was away. According to the leaked audio, Kodak's message started off nice, wishing Thug well, then turned into something else. It turned romantic, he told her. But in the meantime, Shawty, I've been about you, and I just can't put that to rest. I'd love to come to some kind of terms with you, bae. You know it's queen treatment only. Mariah did not go for it. She told Thug about it straight up on the call. She made it clear she had a man, and she was not going against what she had. She even said Kodak had been on that same energy since the very first time they met, so the whole thing landed in a messy, emotional moment. Now put the two pieces side by side. In 2025, Kodak reportedly shot his shot at Mariah while Thug was in a cell and got turned down. In 2026, Thug offers Kodak a blank check to join his label, and Kodak's counter is a full album with that same Mariah. That is why the whole internet lost it. It was not just a high number. It was Kodak poking at old history in broad daylight, wrapping a personal jab inside a business joke. To really understand what Thug was offering Kodak, you have to understand the house Thug built. YSL Records' Young Stoner Life started in 2016 as an imprint under 300 Entertainment, with Warner behind the distribution. It became one of the loudest labels in Atlanta, built on melodic trap and that whole slime culture. Their slime language compilations were the proof, with the first one hitting number 8 in 2018, and Slime Language 2 hitting number 1 in 2021. At its peak, YSL was a machine. Then came the storm. In 2022, the YSL RICO case swept up Thug and a gang of his associates. It turned into one of the longest trials in Georgia history, and it did not wrap until pleas landed in 2024. Thug came out with a reduced deal, time served plus probation with a set of restrictions, but the case did real damage. It froze the label's momentum, drained money into legal fees, and scattered the roster into pleas, acquittals, and new directions. So when you look at YSL today, you're looking at a label that survived a war and is still counting who is left standing. So who did Thug sign, and where are they now? Let us run the roster. The biggest name is Gunna. He was YSL's golden ticket. His drip season tapes built the buzz, and then Wunna went number 1 in 2020, and DS4 ever went number 1 in 2022. He turned into a real star, but the RICO case cracked it all open. Gunna took an Alford plea, served little time, and walked out on probation, and a chunk of the streets branded him a snitch. Today he is still a hitmaker with big streaming numbers, but the family bond is gone. Thug has said in interviews that he has had no contact with Gunna since, and that while he still wants Gunna to eat, it will not be at his table. That is a superstar career and a broken brotherhood at the same time. Then there is Lil Keed, and this one is heavy. Keed was the next wave of YSL, the melodic young voice behind Long Live Mexico, but he passed away on May 13, 2022, at just 24 years old, from a rare condition that shut down his organs. The rest of the roster tells the story of a label that took a hit and kept moving. Strick has been one of the most steady soldiers, a Grammy-nominated songwriter who dropped all-time high in 2024 and stayed active with a stacked feature list that pulled in names like Travis Scott, Future, and Ty Dolla $ign. Yak Gotti beat his RICO trial outright and moved on to independent releases. Young Kyo, the young futuristic one, stayed in the family and kept riding with Thug's projects. T-Shine remained a loud YSL supporter, even with a quieter solo run. Lil Duke pleaded out and went fully independent, and Thug is not done building. By 2026, he was pouring energy into a new class, signing acts and rolling them out. Tezus and Diamond dropped a group project called UY. Scooty Boys in April 2026, with Thug jumping on tracks, and Thug kept putting them on stage, even at a $1 show in New York where he stood next to his new signees for the crowd to see. Over the years, big names like Lil Baby and Youngboy, Never Broke Again floated around the YSL orbit too, showing Slime love without ever being formal signees. The old peak is gone, the Gunna era is over, but the machine is rebuilding brick by brick. So when Thug offered Kodak a blank check, that is the empire he was inviting Kodak into. A label with real history, real wins, real losses, and a founder who has watched people rise, fall, pass away, and walk away. Kodak looked at all of that and said, "No thanks, twin," because Kodak had been building his own empire the whole time, on a road just as long and just as bloody. From the projects to a free man. To understand why Kodak Black turned down a blank check, you have to understand where he came from and how many deals he has already survived. Kodak grew up in the Golden Acres projects, raised by his Haitian mother, and his early years were rough. But somewhere in the chaos, a kid found a microphone. He started rapping around age 12, back in 2009, running with local groups and recording in trap houses. His first tapes were Homegrown, Project Baby in 2013. Heart of the Projects in 2014, Institution in 2015. Then the wave came. No Flockin' caught fire and went double platinum. Drake posted himself dancing to Kodak's music, and that cosign lit the fuse. By 2016, he was an XXL freshman, and the whole country finally saw what Florida already knew. But before the majors ever called, Kodak signed his very first deal as a teenager. At around 16, he inked with a Florida independent label called Dollars and Deals. It did not end clean, though. He later sued the label for breach of contract, and the case settled out of court in March 2017 while he was already at Atlantic and behind bars. So even his first deal came with a lesson about the paperwork, about who really controls your name and your money. Atlantic Records was the big leagues. After the viral wave and the Drake bump, Kodak signed with Atlantic around 2015 into 2016, and that is where he became a chart force. Painting Pictures dropped in 2017 and hit number 3 on the Billboard 200, with Tunnel Vision climbing to number 6 on the Hot 100. Project Baby 2 went number 2 that same year. Then came the peak. He was linking with everybody from French Montana on Lockjaw to Kendrick Lamar on Silent Hill from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, a feature that stirred up controversy because of Kodak's legal history. Later, he dropped back for everything in 2022, with Super Gremlin hitting number 3, one of the hardest solo records of his whole run, before closing his Atlantic chapter with Cutthroat Bill, Vol 1. But every high on Atlantic came with a shadow. The legal system never let go. Kodak's career was a stop-and-start machine, arrests piled up, gun charges, probation violations, a South Carolina case hung over him for years. There were guns at the border and guns at Rolling Loud, and false statements on firearm forms. In 2019 into 2020, he pleaded guilty to federal gun charges and got sentenced to 46 months before President Trump commuted that sentence in January 2021 after about 10 months served. Then in 2021, a failed drug test sent him to rehab, and he came right back out with music like Haitian Boy Kodak. He watched some of his biggest moments from the inside, hearing his own songs ring in clubs he could not stand in. He talked about exactly that feeling in his old Breakfast Club sit-down. When they asked him what it was like to be locked up while his records were everywhere, he did not dress it up.
I had missed the VT Awards and a couple things. I was flaming too because I missed that little Jay-Z shit.
That was the price of the life he was rapping about. In that same interview, you can hear where his head is at.
Because I'm that boy, then I be like, with my shit, I'm better than all these niggas supposed to be.
He sits with that thought for a second, then doubles down on it, and it tells you everything about how he sees his own place in rap.
I don't know, like, cocky, arrogant shit. Then I sit back, I look like, man, I'm better than these niggas, homie.
A man who feels like that is not looking to sign under anybody. He is looking to own everything, and that mindset shaped his next label move too. After he finished his Atlantic run and wrote a couple of viral singles like Walk and Spin, Kodak leveled up to Capitol Records around 2022 on a reported 8-figure deal. He ran his Capitol projects under his own Vulture Love imprint, dropping Pistols and Pearls, and When I Was Dead in 2023, a Trill Bill tape in 2024, then Just Getting Started in 2025, and finally Kodak The Blessing in 2026 as his last major label project. And the legal cloud never fully cleared, with reports of an oxycodone case in 2022, a cocaine case in 2023, and an MDMA arrest surfacing in 2026. Through the arrests and the court dates, the music never stopped, and through all of it, Kodak was quietly building his own house on the side. Around 2016, he founded Sniper Gang. His own imprint, crew, and clothing line rolled into one. He showcased his signees on projects like Nightmare Babies in 2021. He signed names like Jackboy before that one fell apart, along with Psycho Bob, John Wicks, and others. He even talked openly about the headache of running a label, about signees acting up, about almost quitting the signing game altogether. So Kodak knows both sides of the table. You can hear that boss energy in how he talks to his own crew. When Kodak gets going about Sniper Gang, it turns into a whole motivational speech.
Aim at what you want and bang at what you see. They go getters, you heard?
Yeah.
Then he takes that same energy and points it straight at the young ones coming up under his banner.
All the snipes, you got the baby snipes who go get what they want. They tackle their dreams. They see that bitch. They want that bitch.
That is a man who already runs his own team and preaches his own gospel. So the idea of him folding into somebody else's slime chain was never really on the table, which brings us all the way back to 2026. After finishing Atlantic and Capitol, Kodak announced he was going fully independent, taking control of his catalog, his business, and his money. So when Young Thug slid in with a blank check, Kodak was not tempted. He was amused. He had just fought his way to freedom. Why would he trade it for a spot on somebody else's roster? Now, his answer makes more sense. Kodak named a price nobody would ever pay, threw in a jab at Thug's girl for good measure, and reminded everybody that a free man sets his own number. If you enjoyed this video, click on the one showing on your screen to enjoy more.